Um, this is sort of interesting, and I guess the reason that I decided to do this little video here is I just got done listening to part of a channel that is put up by a guy named Jason Whitlock, and he has a show called Fearless. And he's sitting around with former star NFL football players like Brett Favre, Warren Sapp, a few of those guys. And they were talking about self discipline. And they were talking about this coach recently that apparently passed away. His name was Bobby Knight. For those that ever followed sports and competition, the ping pong, the chessboard. Yeah. So you got to know, I mean, because it's self-evident, right? That when the boy and the girl decide that they want to become one and they don't want to be separated from each other and they get fused, right, to become one and experience themselves as being one, then the two become the one and the one becomes the all creation. Because you know that that's fire, and the most powerful magic is fire, which are fire letters, yeah, which are the codes, which are the frequencies, which is the light spirit body, running the radio body, which is all the frequencies when you're fully integrated, yeah, at a cosmic level avatar. And so they were talking about the importance of self-discipline. So the first two words that come to my mind is self-organized. Remember, chaos, out of order, disorder, being disorderly, like disorderly conduct. Now you're into the highest superconductors, right? And being ordered, how when I was growing up as a kid, we used to call it ducks in a row. How wired tight are you? Does your elevator go all the way to the top floor? Stuff like that. Kids would joke back and forth with one another. And because I played in a lot of sports, so I know what it's like to be around coaches that used what we used to call, not used to call, but we understand how this works when it comes to conditioning or programming. We used to say that, remember the old word, give the donkey a carrot, it'll obey, right? Don't feed the bears, reprogramming the bears. Yeah. And then the reward and the punishment. If you obey, you get a carrot. If you obey, you get trick-or-treated. You get candy, sugar, acid batteries. How all that works between the two magnets, yeah, acid and alkaline. And so they were kicking this around and talking about how they were raised by their parents and how their parents fit into how they learned to be self-disciplined, which was through what we call extrinsic motivation. The motivation to obey was based on trauma-based mind control. I dare not disobey or I'm going to get hit. Fracture that crystal, right? What did I do wrong? You didn't obey. You didn't follow the rule. Now we're in a rule-based function. Now we're in the machine code. Obey the AI. See? And so if you break a rule, what happens? You get punished. Oh, I'm sorry, I did something wrong. Now you're going to punish me. Now I'm losing electrons. Like we're going to cut your paycheck. You're not going to get any food for dinner. You're going to get locked in your room. You're going to be put into a confined space. So you can imagine how this is as a child. If you have a mother or a father that is abusive as a result of the abuse that they experienced in their generation, now you're in a generation after 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 generation of programming abuse held in cellular memory that carries over to the same cellular memories held in planetary memory banks, galactic memory banks, and universal memory banks, or the permanent records. Yeah, because there's always a permanent record, right, of what happened from the point you come into, or the inception point from which you come into creation. Now you're self-aware. What are you aware of? I'm aware of what love is. In living spirit, wherever you find love and living spirit, you'll find us. That's a temple. That's a sacred temple of light. That's what a heart is, sacred temple. That's your heart. That's your shield. That's your shield. That's your shield to protect your template, which is a firewall. So when you're experiencing the eternal spirit of fire because you're on fire to give love away, you're not going to hurt anybody. So you begin to realize if you're learning through a temple, a spiritual guide that's on fire to love you, right, then you're going to learn faster. And that's called intrinsic motivation. Right? How did you get there? How did you become what you became? How did you become a living star? How did you do that so fast? Wow, see? So now you're into the speed of learning, and the speed of learning, they want to put energy binding devices on the speed of learning because what increases the speed of your drive motor? Your creative expression. being a free spirit, experiencing eternal, absolute, pure love. That's the creation engine, right? So that creation engine is a lot of fire. So you put a governor on that. Look what happened here. Yeah. So these are the lessons learned, about our first teachers, the first musical spheres, the first creation sphere. Yeah. Creating spheres, generating cells, how cells divide and multiplying genetic codes, right? That's when you're into the distorted codes, distorted mutations as a result of forced breeding experiments, right? What I call Dr. Frankenstein that I was aware of when I was a little boy. Yeah, which means you're able to map the terrain, right? Map the muted mics. How many non-repairables? Trying to repair the repairables. Well, we don't want them repaired, right? Walk all over their signal. Remember the nets? Yeah, and so that's why we're where we're at. So it's going to take some folks to come on in here to ignite the art gate hub gates, right? That's like rebuilding ourselves, rebuilding our templates, rebuilding our temples. Yeah, so that's where you get into temple building, right? And technology. It's much like, what's her name? Gigi Young talked about that. The divide between the inception of love and the acceleration and inception of technology. And the divide between the two. When the two become one, the one becomes the all creation. Experiencing what love is goes on forever. Gifting electrons at the highest rate of speed to build capacitors, to build a universe. Love is the highest accelerator of building capacitors. Yeah. Have a beautiful evening. We love you all. Be good to yourselves.